Olá, boa noite.
Boa noite a todos.
Boa noite.
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 Boa noite a todos.
Boa noite.
Boa noite.
Boa noite.
Boa noite.
Boa noite. Boa noite.
Boa noite a todos.
Boa noite. Boa noite.
Boa noite.
Boa noite.
Boa noite.
Boa noite.
Boa noite.
Boa noite.
Boa noite.
Boa noite.
Boa noite.
Boa noite.
Boa noite. Boa noite.
Boa noite.
Boa noite.
Nossa, que cheiro de queimado é isso?
Boa noite.
Boni,
Boa noite.
Boa noite.
Senhoras e senhores, boa noite. Primeiramente, gostaríamos de relembrá-los que este evento conta com a tradução simultânea e você tem a possibilidade de escolher o idioma de sua preferência. Então, basta habilitar o recurso na barra inferior do seu aplicativo, no Zoom, tá? É o botão Interpretation, interpretação, ok? Bom, neste momento, iniciamos a nossa aula magna do segundo semestre de 2021, dando boas-vindas aos nossos colaboradores, professores, alunos dos cursos de graduação, bacharelado e tecnólogos, os nossos MBAs, pós-graduação e mestrado profissional aqui presentes. Saudamos os alunos, os coordenadores de cursos e os professores e diretoria da Faculdade Fipecafi. Estendemos os nossos cumprimentos às demais autoridades aqui presentes, ao diretor da Faculdade de Economia, Administração e Contabilidade, a FEA-USP, o professor Fábio Fresati, ao chefe do Departamento de Contabilidade e Atuária da FEA-USP, o professor Valmor Slonsky, ao presidente do Conselho Curador da Fipecafi, o professor Reinaldo Guerreiro, e aos demais membros do Conselho Curador e do Conselho Fiscal da Fipecafi. Dando início à nossa aula magna, é com muita honra que convidamos os componentes da mesa diretora desta noite. Professor Edgar Cornacchione, diretor-presidente da Fipecafi. Professor Fernando Dalri Múrcia, diretor de projetos da Fipecafi. Professor João Domiraci Passês, diretor administrativo financeiro da Fipecafi. Professor Anderson Braga de Aguiar, diretor de cursos da Fipecafi e diretor-geral da Faculdade Fipecafi. Professora Luciana Maia Campos Machado, superintendente acadêmica da Faculdade Fipecafi. Loreal Jiles, diretora de Pesquisa, Tecnologia Digital e Transformação em Finanças do EMI, Institute of Management Accounts. Lisa Bodowen, diretora de Desenvolvimento de Negócios do IMA, Institute of Management Accounts. Habitualmente, esta aula aconteceria de forma presencial, mas seguimos adaptando frente ao cenário atual. E agora eu convido o professor Edgar Cornacchione. Boa noite, professor. Diretor-presidente da Fipecafi, fundação mantenedora da Faculdade Fipecafi, para falar em nome da diretoria executiva da Fipecafi. Boa noite, professor.
Boa noite. Quero, nesse momento, cumprimentar todas e todos, né, especialmente o nosso presidente do Conselho Curador, professor Dr. Reinaldo Guerreiro. Quero cumprimentar o nosso professor Dr. Fábio Fresati, que é o diretor da FEA, USP. Quero cumprimentar o professor Valmor Slonsky, professor Dr. Valmor Slonsky, que é chefe do Departamento de Contabilidade e Atuária da FEA USP. Também quero aproveitar para cumprimentar todos os membros da diretoria executiva da Fipecafi, né? Professor João Domiraci Passês, professor Fernando Múrcia, professor Anderson Aguiar. Nesse momento também quero cumprimentar a professora Luciana Maia, que é superintendente da faculdade, né? Aproveitar nesse momento, que é um momento importante para a gente, de início de mais um semestre letivo, e indicar que todos os nossos colaboradores, né, todos os nossos professores, os nossos alunos, corpo docente, corpo discente, corpo funcional da nossa faculdade, desejar um semestre muito profícuo, um semestre cheio de atividades importantes para todos, num momento tão difícil como esse que a gente vive, uma pandemia ainda impactando as nossas atividades, né, presenciais. Então, somos aí levados a trabalhar num formato diferente. Mas eu queria fazer uso dessa palavra para mencionar três coisas, né? A Fipecafi, ela busca orientação nesse momento com três bandeiras, né? E acho que a faculdade, de certa forma, ela recebe esse impulso dessas três bandeiras orientativas, né? Eu imagino que essa aula magna ela seja muito emblemática nesse momento, né? Então, quero aqui, de público, agradecer a parceria junto ao IMA, na pessoa da professora Lisa Budwin, e especialmente da nossa convidada, a professora Loreal Jiles, que farão as palavras e fará a nossa aula na noite de hoje. e essa aula se coaduna com nossas orientações estratégicas, que são as 3 bandeiras que eu vou declarar aqui mais uma vez para todos os presentes, né? A bandeira ligada ao alargamento de escopo da contabilidade, ou seja, das atuações da Fipecafi, entendendo, né, que o mundo dos negócios ele amplia o escopo das atividades que nós temos, especialmente a segunda bandeira, que é a bandeira da internacionalização, muito bem representada pela parceria com o Instituto, o AMA, e, portanto, com essa nossa sessão magna. E, por fim, a nossa terceira bandeira, que é a bandeira da tecnologia, né? Todas as atividades com as quais os profissionais da área financeira lidam, cada vez mais, têm o efeito positivo, né, e desafiador também dos avanços tecnológicos. Então, com essa breve menção, eu quero agradecer mais uma vez a disponibilidade de todas e todos em estarem aqui, especialmente da nossa palestrante, né, a professora Loreal Jiles. É um prazer tê-la aqui conosco. Devolvo a palavra. Muito obrigado.
Obrigada, professor. Convidamos também o diretor de pesquisas da Fipecafi, o professor Fernando Dalri Múrcia, para as suas palavras. Boa noite, professor.
Boa noite a todos. Queria cumprimentar todos os presentes, dizer que seria muito bom se tivéssemos todos nós pessoalmente, né, como era no passado, e com certeza estaremos juntos presencialmente no ano que vem. Essa pandemia já vai, se Deus quiser, estar superada. Eu acho que, em primeiro lugar, eu queria dar as boas-vindas a todos os nossos alunos da Faculdade Fipecafi, que a gente sabe que não são apenas alunos, né? São parceiros nossos, assim como os nossos professores, toda essa comunidade, essa família Fipecafi, que se manteve muito unida e ainda se mantém unida nesse momento difícil. A gente sabe que tudo indica que o pior já passou, mas a gente, graças a Deus, está chegando ao fim dessa pandemia e estaremos todos juntos aí em breve, né? Queria agradecer também, assim como o professor Edgar fez, a parceria com a AMA, nas pessoas da Lisa e do Loreal Palestrante de hoje. Eu acho que essa palestra e essa aula magna, ela, como o Edgar comentou, ela marca realmente, assim como a posse que a gente teve alguns meses atrás, essa virada institucional da Fipecafi, esse olhar internacional que a liderança do Edgar trouxe, esse olhar em tecnologia, esse olhar em ampliação de escopo e ao mesmo tempo, a necessidade que a Fipecafi tem de se tornar mais presente no ambiente brasileiro, né? Assumir um papel de protagonismo que a gente tem quase que um dever de fazer, né? A gente verifica o nosso ambiente institucional, nosso ambiente político e o estado do país como um todo, e a gente sabe, lá no fundo, que só a educação, né? A gente vê reformas, a gente sabe que uma mudança estrutural de Brasil, ela só acontece com educação. A gente realmente ter uma virada de educação na nossa sociedade, melhoria de produtividade, melhoria da nossa sociedade como um todo. E a Fipecafi, como nós sabemos, ela sempre desempenhou esse papel de destaque, a Fipecafi junto com a USP. E a gente tem quase que um dever de continuar fazendo isso. Ser um líder nessa área de contabilidade, finanças, atuária, tecnologia, uma obrigação de contribuir, uma obrigação de participar mais desse debate público também. E isso não só através de nós, professores, dos nossos alunos que vão estar nas empresas, que vão estar nas universidades, que vão estar nos órgãos públicos, na gestão pública. Então, é muito importante que a gente assuma essa responsabilidade de tentar contribuir cada vez mais com a melhoria aí do nosso país e também olhando com esse olhar institucional internacional. Obrigado a todos novamente pela presença. É uma honra para a gente contar com mais de 450 pessoas nessa aula, numa segunda-feira à noite, no Zoom aqui, para acompanhar essa aula magna da Fipecafi. Realmente são parceiros nossos e a gente fica muito feliz de estar aqui. Agradeço e devolvo a palavra. Muito obrigado.
Obrigada, professor, pelas palavras. Agora eu convido o diretor administrativo financeiro da Fipecafi, o professor João Domiraci Pacês, para apresentar as suas palavras de boas-vindas. Boa noite, professor.
Boa noite, Pamela. Boa noite a todos e todas presentes à nossa cerimônia. Meus cumprimentos às autoridades presentes, professor Reinaldo Guerreiro, professor Fábio Presati, professor Valmor Slonski e demais colegas professores. Eu apenas quero dar as boas-vindas aos novos alunos e alunas e dizer que é uma honra recebê-los para que se juntem à nossa família Fipecafi. Eu desejo que tenham uma estada enriquecedora nesse período futuro, em que conviverão conosco, e estejam certos de que nós exerceremos todos os esforços para contribuir para o crescimento profissional e pessoal de todos vocês, cumprindo a missão que nos move de contribuição para o engrandecimento do país. Aproveito para agradecer também a presença de nossas ilustres convidadas, Lisa e Loreal, que muito nos orgulha e engrandece o nosso evento. Tenhamos todos e todas uma agradável cerimônia. Obrigado.
Obrigada, professor. Convido agora o diretor de cursos da Fipecafi e diretor-geral da Faculdade Fipecafi, o professor Anderson Braga de Aguiar. Boa noite, professor.
Boa noite, Pamela, e obrigado. Boa noite a todos, boa noite a todas aqui presentes. Eu quero inicialmente agradecer a presença de cada um de vocês, né, tá participando desse evento tão importante aqui para a Faculdade Fipecafi, né? Agradecer a participação da Lisa Budwin, aqui representando o IMA, e especialmente agradecer a Loreal Jiles por ter aceito, né, o convite em ser, né, a nossa palestrante hoje nesse evento tão especial para a gente, né, que é a aula inaugural. Quero dar as boas-vindas a todos os ingressantes, né, nos programas de graduação e pós-graduação da Faculdade Fipecafi. Como já mencionado pelo professor Edgar Conachoni, né, nosso diretor-presidente, a Faculdade Fipecafi tem alguns desafios, não é, pela frente, dado essas bandeiras que foram mencionadas, né? Então, um desses desafios é a ampliação de escopo, né? O crescimento da faculdade, esse crescimento que pode ser pensado sob diferentes perspectivas, né? Desde uma perspectiva do que a faculdade representa em termos dos temas que ela trata, não é, de trazer temas como tecnologia, e acho que hoje a palestra inaugural é representativa também nesse sentido, não é, de trazer temas que, quem sabe, nos permitam, em um momento, em um futuro próximo, poder nos colocar como uma escola de negócios, não é, incluindo, dando mais atenção a áreas como a administração. Também um escopo em sentido geográfico mesmo, não é, de pensar a atuação da Faculdade Fipecafi para além de São Paulo, para além da região sudeste, olhando o Brasil de um modo mais amplo, e acho que até esse momento tem sido bastante positivo nesse sentido, já que isso tem nos facilitado essa possibilidade e tem, então, já nos permitido um primeiro passo nessa direção. O segundo ponto, a segunda bandeira, né, que foi comentada, diz respeito justamente ao tema de tecnologia, Então, esse é um tema que tem uma interação crescente com a contabilidade, não é? Com a área de controladoria, com as funções de contabilidade, e é um desafio da faculdade, e é algo que já vem ocorrendo, que é a inserção, não é, de temas associados a data analytics, a big data, seja nos cursos de graduação, seja nos cursos de pós-graduação que são oferecidos. E isso combinado com a ênfase que também tem sido crescente em termos da atuação profissional do contador, em especial, que é a ênfase em soft skills, né? Então, esses são dois desafios, conseguir trazer e ter os nossos currículos incorporando cada vez mais esses temas. O terceiro ponto, a terceira bandeira mencionada, diz respeito à internacionalização, né? Então, de que maneira que essa reputação que a Faculdade Fipecafi vem obtendo pode ser estendida, inclusive, eu tinha já mencionado isso, o aumento do escopo geográfico, e esse aumento indo, inclusive, além, não é, das fronteiras que a gente tem em relação ao Brasil, de como que a gente consegue ter uma maior inserção internacional, e isso não apenas em termos do ensino, mas também em termos de pesquisa, já que temos, como parte da Faculdade Fipecafi, o mestrado profissional, e que tem um foco em pesquisa que traga, não é, benefícios para as organizações, uma visão aplicada do que é gerado de conhecimento, não é, nessa área. Então, certamente, a palestra, a aula inaugural de hoje, ela está muito alinhada com esses temas, com essas bandeiras. Então, nós temos aqui 2 palestrantes representando o Institute of Management Accountants, que é um importante instituto em termos de atuação profissional na área de contabilidade, desenvolvimento de pesquisas e tantas outras iniciativas, e para falar de um tema que tem a ver também com uma dessas bandeiras, que é tecnologia, né? Então, sem dúvida, uma oportunidade bastante positiva para a gente, e sem dúvida, um prazer, né, bastante grande de termos essa aula inaugural de hoje. Então, quero desejar a todos uma excelente palestra e devolvo a palavra para a Pamela.
Obrigada, professora. E agora convido a professora Luciana Maia Campos Machado, superintendente acadêmica da Faculdade Fipecafi, para a sua saudação. Boa noite, professora.
Boa noite, Pamela, obrigada. Boa noite a todos. Gostaria de iniciar saudando aos alunos, coordenadores de curso, professores, a diretoria da Faculdade Fipecafi, membros do Conselho Curador, também as demais autoridades aqui presentes, em especial a Loreal Jiles, palestrante, que gentilmente aceitou o nosso convite para a Aula Magna. Muito obrigada mesmo a todos que nos acompanham nessa noite. Essa é mais uma aula magna que nos deixa muito honrados ao ver a sala, que é hoje virtual, repleta de jovens que estão iniciando a sua formação, de profissionais relevantes de mercado que confiaram em nós ao buscar uma atualização e uma troca de conhecimento. Mas ver tantas pessoas aqui presentes reforça também a nossa responsabilidade no processo de formação de todos vocês. Mas saibam que, ao escolher fazer parte dessa comunidade Fipecafi, da família Fipecafi, como o professor João colocou, vocês estão ingressando em um ambiente que busca liderar a discussão de temas contábeis, financeiros e de negócios, nacional e internacionalmente. Sendo assim, a minha mensagem de hoje, eu gostaria de reforçar alguns dos indicadores de qualidade que a Faculdade Fipecafi constantemente vem conquistando, sendo avaliada pelo MEC como uma das melhores instituições de educação superior no Brasil. A Faculdade Fipecafi acumula notas máximas no Índice Geral de Cursos, o IGC, desde 2016. Apenas 4 faculdades privadas no estado de São Paulo obtiveram IGC 5 desde 2016. Quando nós olhamos para o Brasil, são apenas 10 faculdades privadas que mantêm nota máxima ao longo de todo esse mesmo período. Na última divulgação do Índice Geral de Cursos, apenas 2,2% das instituições de ensino superior do país obtiveram GC5, ou seja, nós estamos falando de um público bastante reduzido, 46 das 2.070 instituições avaliadas. Então, vocês estão ingressando em uma instituição que constantemente comprova a excelência de ensino e busca melhorar a cada dia. Outra prova da excelência da instituição está em nossos cursos de graduação, o bacharelado em Ciências Contábeis e o tecnólogo em Gestão Financeira. São cursos avaliados com nota máxima no MEC em todos os processos de autorização e reconhecimento aos quais foram submetidos, tanto na modalidade presencial quanto na modalidade à distância. Eu destaco ainda que no último exame do CFC, os nossos alunos do curso de Ciências Contábeis estiveram, mais uma vez, em posição de notório destaque. Nossos alunos do EAD obtiveram 89% de aprovação, e nossos alunos do curso presencial obtiveram 82% de aprovação no exame. Para vocês terem ideia, esse resultado ele nos coloca em primeiro lugar em nível nacional entre os cursos à distância, e para o curso presencial, primeiro lugar entre as instituições de ensino superior privadas e 14º em um ranking geral. São muitos indicadores de qualidade, a gente poderia continuar falando aqui sobre diversos outros, mas o ponto é que essas conquistas, elas são fruto da dedicação de nossos professores, coordenadores, colaboradores, alunos e ex-alunos. E, constantemente, esse público se esforça para manter o posicionamento de excelência da Faculdade Fipecafi. Então, eu gostaria de deixar aqui o meu muito obrigado, desejando que esse seja o início de mais um semestre de muito aprendizado, muita superação, conquistas e evolução pessoal e profissional de todos que estão iniciando essa jornada conosco. Todos que confiaram na Fipecafi para aprimorar a sua formação. Então, sejam muito bem-vindos, uma excelente aula magna a todos. E é isso, obrigada, Pamela. Devolvo a palavra para você.
Obrigada, professora. E apresentaremos agora a nossa equipe de coordenadores e advisors da Faculdade Fipecafi. Bom, e agora eu passo a palavra para o professor Anderson.
Obrigado novamente, Pamela. Eu tenho, então, o prazer de fazer a introdução, né, da nossa palestrante de hoje, a Loreal Jiles. Agora, então, a gente vai seguir com a cerimônia, com a apresentação da Aula Magna desse segundo semestre de 2021, e vai ser proferido, então, pela Loreal, que é de uma representatividade internacional, representando aqui o Institute of Management Accountants, reforçando o comprometimento que a gente já comentou, o compromisso da Faculdade Fipecafi, da Fipecafi como um todo, com a internacionalização da instituição. Então, a nossa convidada é a Loreal Jiles, ela é diretora de Pesquisa, Tecnologia Digital e Transformação em Finanças do Institute of Management Accountants. Ela também tem atuação profissional anterior na BP's North America Gas and Power, onde atuou em diferentes frentes, como Transformação em Finanças, analista financeira, na equipe de contabilidade e relatórios, também envolvendo funções de auditoria de joint venture e receita, em segmentos como exploração e produção, além de analista financeira do Centro Tecnológico de Especialização para Projetos de EIP. Loreal é bacharel em contabilidade pela Salton University e possui MBA pela Tulane University, ambas instituições norte-americanas. Então, nossos cumprimentos a Loreal Jiles, que fica, então, aqui com a missão de dar o pontapé inicial para o nosso semestre e certamente, começando em alto nível. Loreal, feel free to go on.
Thank you. I just want to confirm that you can hear me, and if someone can let me know if you can see my screen.
Yes, yes. The screen is not yet.
Loreal, it says started sharing, but it isn't showing yet.
Yeah.
Okay.
Why don't you stop it and try one more time, Loreal?
Sounds good. It is frozen momentarily. That's just about the way it goes when you need it to do amazing things. Let's see. It's quite strange. There we go. All right, I will try again. There we go. All right. So take two, let me know if you're able to see the screen this time.
It's good.
Now it's fine.
Perfect. All right. So I am honored to be here today. As the previous speakers have said, I am L'Oreal Jiles, and I am with the Institute of Management Accountants. And today we will speak on the future of finance and accounting in the digital age. I'll share a little bit about my background and then hand over to one of my colleagues to give a better introduction about our presence in Brazil. I have about 15 years of experience working in the energy industry, or the oil and gas industry. And that was at BP, British Petroleum. And that was across a host of finance and accounting and technology roles. And my last role there was standing up the robotic process automation program globally for the finance organization. So a lot of what I will present to you today will be from my personal experience leveraging digital technology, as well as a host of research projects across the industry and across the profession globally. So I'll start now by handing over to my colleague, Lisa Bowden, who will talk a little bit about IMA's presence in Brazil.
Thank you, L'Oreal. Boa noite. It's a pleasure to be part of the presentation for Fipecafi this evening. My name is Lisa Bowden, as L'Oreal told you, and I'm Senior Director of Business Development at IMA. I'd like to thank Professor Edgard and Professor Anson for inviting IMA to speak this evening and to be part of the Fipecafi family, if only for this evening, but hopefully that will continue beyond. Before L'Oreal begins her presentation, I would like to tell you a little bit about IMA. IMA is a global membership association, and our members work in accounting and financial management roles in business. We have nearly 150,000 members working all around the world, including in Brazil, and we provide them with professional development, research, networking opportunities, and more. Similar to Fipecafi, IMA is focused on many of the same things. The internationalization, we have members all around the world that we're supporting. Technology is a very important topic at IMA and for our members, and you're going to learn a lot about our expertise in technology during tonight's presentation. And we also focus on covering topics beyond just traditional accounting. And at IMA, those topics could include ESG reporting or sustainable business management. Soft skills, as Professor Anson mentioned, are very important at Fipecafi as well. Diversity, equity, and inclusion, and more. Now, IMA has developed several important relationships with Brazilian organizations over the past several years. So that's what I wanted to share with you from this slide. We're very pleased to be working with Fipecafi this evening, and we hope to continue to strengthen the relationship between IMA and Fipecafi. We also have been working with USP for many years, and in fact, USP has received IMA's higher education endorsement, and the IMA endorsement recognizes that the curriculum at USP is very rigorous, and covers topics that are very relevant for professionals in accounting and finance. And I'd like to share that USP is the only university in Latin America to have earned the IMA endorsement. And at IMA, we're very proud to have USP included on that list of IMA endorsed schools. We also have a strategic partnership with CRC of Sao Paulo, and IMA leaders participated in Convicon in November 2019. We also have a relationship with CRC, CFC, the federal group out of Brasilia. And the IMA relationship with ANAFACI goes back many, many years, decades, in fact. So we're very pleased to have partnerships with all of these important Brazilian organizations, and we look to continue to further the relationships that IMA has in Brazil. Again, thank you for the opportunity to speak to you this evening. At this time, I'd like to hand the presentation back to Loreal.
Right. Thanks so much, Lisa. And I shared a bit about my background earlier. The one other piece of information that I will share is I am currently Director of Research for Digital Technology and Finance Transformation, but effective September 1st, I will be named Vice President of Research and Thought Leadership. And I'm very excited about that because that gives me more opportunities to partner with organizations like Fipecafi and USP and a host of others to advance the accounting profession globally. So as we start thinking about what we will explore today, we will talk about the career success in the digital age for finance and accounting, the impetus or why we have this transformation going across our profession today, the state of the finance and accounting profession, and we will do that with focus on 6 mega trends that are impacting the profession. We'll talk specifically about the impact of digital technology on finance and accounting and how you can become future-proof and deliver value with digital skills that you may gain. So we will start with why our profession is undergoing a transformation to begin with. In 2019, the IBM Institute for Business Value published a report, and in that report about the skills that people have at that time and skills that are needed in the future, they identified that 120 million workers in the world's 12 largest economies may need to be retrained or reskilled in the next 3 years as a result of intelligent or AI-enabled automation. And what was more shocking to me was executives believe that they are not prepared for their countries or for their businesses to offer the development that millions of workers will require in this new digital age. That's important because it says there is still work to be done, and executives are acknowledging this, and this is across multiple geographic regions, as well as a host of industries and professions. Emerging digital technology is providing a path toward upskilling and meeting business demands. And the goal of that, as we think about CFOs implementing their plans to prepare their teams for the future, as well as controllers in the accounting space, the goal would be transforming the functional delivery of finance and accounting teams across the globe. As we think about what happens for finance and accounting, Deloitte and IMA conducted a survey, and that survey was to examine the workforce of the future. And we wanted to understand how the future will be shaped by technology, talent, and automation. And in that survey, nearly 76% of respondents felt their accounting processes were less than 75% automated. When we asked how people were expecting the type of work within finance to change, more than 90% of respondents indicated they feel the level of transactional processing will either somewhat or significantly decrease and become more analytical over the next 5 years. So this is saying that the first slide we looked at talked about what's happening across the globe and lots of professions. This one is specific to finance and accounting, and it says there are a host of changes underway, and we are expecting there to be significant progress over the next few years. The accelerated pace of change and technology advancements are increasing the accessibility of data. So we're able to access more data than we ever had access to in the past. And that is forcing businesses to operate in a more competitive landscape. As a result of that, business leaders are demanding more of the finance function. They're seeking agile and data-backed insights and elevated strategic decision support. So we're trying to figure out as a profession, how can we deliver more insights and create value within our organizations? This demand gives rise to functional transformation. We recognize as a global profession that we aren't prepared to provide everything that is needed to meet future demands, and that we need to transform to be able to meet those demands. A lot of the times we talk about transformation as digital transformation, and that's because there's a huge need for functional teams to leverage digital technology. In many respects, though, there is an even greater focus on talent pipeline, and that's ensuring the presence of diverse talent pools and teams equipped with the right technical capabilities, as well as the right leadership and people skills. Automation has been around a long time, and now amid COVID-19, the urgency to automate has never been greater. Emerging technologies like robotic process automation, process mining, blockchain, artificial intelligence are advancing rapidly. New competencies like data science are also advancing, but not as rapidly as the digital technology that we should be using. So we have to speed up the pace of upskilling and leverage new technologies. We have to recognize what's at stake. That places us in a race for relevance. And that relevance is dependent on competency and talent. Technology is secondary to people and process. So what we'll do in the next section is talk about a few mega trends that are facing our profession today. Remote work will become the norm for finance teams. So as we have seen just over the last year and a half, there is so much that's possible working remotely. My current role is 100% remote unless I need to travel to have conversations like the one we're having today. And that will increasingly become the norm across the profession. As Lisa indicated, ESG, or environmental, social, and governance reporting, will also become more important across our profession as we become accountable for more than just financial reporting. We also have to report non-financial data in many instances. Finance professionals will be held accountable for enterprise risk management. We have always played a role in risk mitigation, especially with a control focus, and that is only going to increase over the next few years. Diversity, equity, and inclusion will also be more of a competitive differentiator as we see the increased focus on diverse talent pipelines, on inclusive and equitable practices. We see that need for belonging and also, I'd say, the outcome of equity being equality. And where we focus there is not just on making sure we have a diverse team, but that everyone feels that they belong and that their voices are equally heard and respected. And that ultimately yields better results for the organization. Automation will accelerate. A lot of what we will talk about in today's session is different ways or digital tools that we are using to automate the processes that finance and accounting professionals perform today. That will continue to increase over the coming years, and there will be greater demand for upskilling and continuing education for professionals. That piece is incredibly key. The session that you're in today speaks to your commitment to upskilling and continuing education, and the program that you're embarking on in Fipecafi also speaks to your commitment to continuing education and your valuing of that upskilling concept. So you'll want to continue that throughout your careers. As we start now, we'll focus on the impact digital technology that is having on finance and accounting. Automation is having a wide-reaching impact on the workforce. Bloomberg developed a tool that simulated the chances of jobs across many professions being impacted by automation. And it combined wage and education requirements data from the US Bureau of Labor Statistics. And that was also with data on the probability of automation. What their simulation found was that accountant and auditor jobs are 94% likely to be impacted by automation. Another noteworthy observation from this report is that accountant and auditor jobs are among fewer than 10 professions requiring a bachelor's degree that are more than 90% likely to be impacted by automation. And that's important because we need to know that going in. We need to understand as we enter this profession or continue careers in the profession. We need to understand the role that automation is having within the organization. As we think specifically about the processes that we perform within finance and accounting, I look to the diagram here that I created about 1.5 years ago, and this was leveraging some data from McKinsey and combining that with additional data that I was able to pull through robotic process automation and artificial intelligence research. The figure that's on the screen demonstrates the correlation between process complexity and automation likelihood. And it's highlighting processes traditionally performed by entry-level accounting and finance staff or individual contributors as most likely to be automated. These are processes like journal entries, some routine close activities, accounts payable, accounts receivable, payroll, reconciliation, and others. And I'll pause just for a moment. If we could all press mute, then we will continue to discuss here. So other things that we look at, different roles, payroll, accounts payable, accounts receivable, all of those are likely among some of the most likely processes to be automated. McKinsey's findings also underscore what has been seen in implementations of organizations that have started automation or transformation journeys over the past few years. Leading RPA software vendors have shared that most enterprises, regardless of industry, begin their RPA journeys in the finance and accounting department. And those that have the greatest impact, again, are those that we see accounts payable, accounts receivable, bookkeeping, payroll, and the like. So as we think about what that means, it says we will still have a tremendous need for accounting and finance professionals. So our jobs will not all disappear. But what's important to note is there are certain activities and processes that are more prone to automation. So that means for us that we want to ensure that we are concentrating our efforts toward the top end of the pyramid. And those types of activities are strategy formulation, business development, strategic decision support, the risk management that we spoke about earlier, financial controlling and external reporting, some audit and tax opportunities, as well as financial planning and analysis. All of those, while they can benefit from having automation, it's still incredibly dependent on the skills that we have as humans and as business professionals. So now we'll step into 3 different digital technologies. The first we will explore is robotic process automation. Robotic process automation, or RPA, is technology that enables a virtual robot or a bot to emulate human interaction with computer applications to execute processes. And so what that's saying is there is a virtual execution engine. So it's not a robot that you can touch with your hands. It is within the computer, so it's digital, and it is copying the clicks and the keystrokes that you have with your keypad or your mouse. So anything that you can type or any application you can access with your mouse can be automated using RPA. And we look at robots as an opportunity to execute automation opportunities or different processes that we may have performed manually in the past. The robots are performing processes that we automate, and we are developing processes that robots will perform. As we think about robotic process automation software capability, Again, RPA is mimicking the clicks and keystrokes of a human user, and that's happening while leveraging process documentation. Robots can log into and perform tasks in accounting and operational applications and retrieve data from websites, all of that using your keyboard or your mouse. They can perform data entry just as we might type data into SAP or another financial system, generate reports from a web-based application or a desktop application, read PDF documents, send emails, and a host of other activities. And that can happen 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 52 weeks a year. Intelligent RPA, which is the marriage of RPA and artificial intelligence, is enabling a bot to learn as it's processing transactions. And that's really important because it says not only can RPA copy the steps that you perform in a process, it can also learn as it's processing transactions and ultimately process them more accurately over time. Examples of use cases that I've employed before are reading invoices for accounts payable, perhaps looking up different currencies or exchange rates for those invoices because we were a global organization at the time and needed to process invoices in multiple languages and using multiple currencies. And so the robot would then be able to look at that PDF document, process the information that's been brought, look into the financial system to find the payment information for that vendor or counterparty and submit the payment. And so that's one example among many examples that RPA can handle in today's world, and that RPA is already handling for a lot of large enterprises. When we look at RPA software, there are three primary components to all leading RPA software: the bots or the robots themselves, a bot manager, and a workflow design module. The bots perform processes. The bot manager enables scheduling and allocation of developed processes. And the workflow design module is where processes are developed. This is another point here, although we say it sometimes, in RPA implementations, we are not developing bots. We are developing the processes that bots will perform. So again, what you want to take away for robotic process automation, in these scenarios, you can automate processes. Business users, accounting and finance professionals can automate processes using RPA without knowing much or any programming languages in some instances. Leading RPA tools in the market today are UiPath and Automation Anywhere, as well as Blue Prism. So all three of those, if you want to learn more about robotic process automation, you can access their websites and their learning academies for free. So lots of opportunity there to upskill in the area of robotic process automation. As we continue, data analytics and artificial intelligence are also incredibly important. Data analytics will define the future of our profession. As we think 10 years from now, 15 years from now, data analytics will be the leading, I'd say the leading determining factor of our profession's success and viability. There are 4 different types of data analytics. Descriptive analytics determines what is happening. Although the question of what happened can be answered with great granularity through this approach, descriptive analytics provides insights by indicating that something is wrong or right, but doesn't explain why. Diagnostic analytics provides an answer to why something happened. It tracks changes and analyzes variances by measuring different aspects of historical data against each other. This measurement of historical data takes place by drilling down into the data. We're detecting anomalies or discrepancies or things that look different and identifying correlations among the data. Next, we go to predictive analytics, Predictive analytics offers insight into what is likely to happen in the future, and that's given the current circumstances. Informed by findings of descriptive and diagnostic analytics, predictive analytics marries artificial intelligence and big data to forecast future trends. This is accomplished through analytical models, algorithms, and machine learning, among other advancements. And that brings us all the way up to prescriptive analytics. Prescriptive analytics goes a step beyond predicting and presents specific actions that should be taken to increase the likelihood of a desired future result. Critical decisions arise from this analysis, and that ultimately shapes risk mitigation plans and overarching strategy within organizations. Predictive analytics supports these decisions by processing internal and external data, and that's through models to repeatedly test combinations of variables with the goal of recommending those combinations with the highest chance of the intended outcome. As we think about real use cases for data analytics and artificial intelligence, within human resources, teams are leveraging data analytics with the goal of improving their organization's workforce performance. Data that is routinely collected by HR is correlated to organizational objectives, and that enables teams to measure how HR initiatives are contributing to organizational strategic initiatives. Through data analytics, HR teams are now able to provide insights on the drivers of turnover rates, expediting and improving the quality of recruitment, predicting workforce trends, reducing bias in promotions or hiring practices, and prescribing actions needed to maintain productive, inclusive, and engaged workforces. Another example of data analytics in action is with procurement. Procurement and sourcing teams have a considerable amount of data already at their fingertips. Data analytics allows them to better and more efficiently develop reports, perform spend analysis, assess suppliers, and perform compliance checks as well. Another example is with legal functions in organizations. In-house legal departments are increasingly asked to report and operate like other business functions. Legal teams are utilizing data analytics to streamline operations that distract from higher value tasks. That may be tracking and measuring legal decisions, identifying specific clauses in contracts, because you can use algorithms, natural language processing, optical character recognition to read through that data, monitor clauses, monitor for law violations, and inform better legal decision-making amongst a host of other opportunities. As we think about the last year and a half, data analytics and artificial intelligence have been used to support our progress through the COVID-19 pandemic. As we think about the healthcare industry, in the earlier days of the pandemic, China faced a shortage of qualified imaging doctors. This was before we had access to tests that we can use for nose swabs or saliva tests. At that time, diagnoses came through a review of CT features of the lungs through x-rays. And what was able to happen is computer vision, artificial intelligence techniques were leveraged to read the CT quantification results and provide a diagnosis in seconds. New drug development, the way that we were able to get to different drugs that support in fighting the disease as well as the vaccination, was through data analytics as well. There were a host of machine learning models that were used to determine whether a drug will be effective in fighting the virus. And that's how we arose to the vaccines that we have available to us today. Combating misleading information, social media companies like Twitter used a deep learning algorithm to separate reliable and authoritative sources from unreliable ones. And that was to reduce the spread of misinformation. Infection severity is another example. Data analytics is responsible for models of the likelihood of an individual being exposed to COVID-19, which is infection risk, or the chance that if infected, the individual might require hospitalization or intensive care, which would be severity risk. As we think about finance and accounting, during the pandemic, finance functions across the globe have played a critical role in their respective organizations' recovery, informing key business decisions through insights derived from data analytics. Finance teams have leveraged their unique access to financial and non-financial data, and that has allowed us to enable our organizations to better manage cash flow, identify top products or recommend new products, forecast demand, assess employment levels, and evaluate financing and investment options, just to name a few. Last example that I will share is in the retail industry. There was something they viewed as an information deficit. The retail industry was already accustomed to having lots of information and leveraging data analytics. But when the pandemic began, the data that they had was no longer as useful because they may have different customers. Some customers may have left because they have different salaries now or are no longer working in the organizations they worked in before. And so the retail industry leveraged data analytics to predict consumer behavior and to refine their product and service offerings. As we think about as finance and accounting professionals, all of those are examples of what you can do with data analytics, the power of data analytics and artificial intelligence. We can upskill primarily in two ways. One is to learn how to follow the data. What's most important, more important than learning how to use the tools or learning programming languages, is being able to identify what question needs to be answered. So you will look at the data and figure out what question needs to be answered. As you figure that out, continue to dig deeper into the data. The other option is to learn how to code or learn a programming language. You do not have to become an expert, but a foundational knowledge can elevate the way you think about business problems and take you a long way. As one of the key pillars of Fipecafi's program focuses on technology, this will become incredibly important. Pairing your knowledge of financial data and financial statements and other business objectives and strategic objectives with the ability to analyze data, particularly in an advanced way, you will be able to deliver greater value to the organizations that you support. If you're interested in learning programming languages, you can start with something like Python or R or BASIC, and that's just to establish a baseline in data analytics. The last digital tool we will talk about is data visualization. There are two types of data visualization: exploratory and explanatory. When to use each of those is determined by the reason for preparing the visualization. Exploratory visuals are used when you are unsure about what lies beyond the data, or to answer what, when, why, and how questions. For example, how does sales revenue change over time? If you observe patterns of seasonal revenue increases, you might ask, when does sales revenue increase? And that might be followed by, why did sales revenue increase at that time? And what do those results mean? This is the process of forming the story. So as we are finance and accounting professionals, although we focus on the data and the numbers, we also focus on telling the story behind that data. Explanatory visuals are typically used when you want to communicate specific aspects of the story or the story in its entirety to your audience. I'll give two examples of data visualization in action. The example that you see on the screen is of a Tableau dashboard. This is a typical finance dashboard. Across the top, you see some key performance indicators or KPIs, and those are metrics that are focused on by senior leadership within an organization. It might be net income, gross profit, total revenue. You can also see beneath those different examples using charts or graphs. And that's very common to view on the face of a finance dashboard as well. In this one, we explore revenue and gross profit, as well as other financial metrics across different departments within the organization. The next example that we will share is among those most noteworthy and is from the World Health Organization, where they used data to report confirmed cases, deaths, and recoveries by geography. This is an example of descriptive analytics and is the data visualization of a map with relative intensity of confirmed infections in various regions. This is from October 2020, and that is intentional because the numbers did not get better after October 2020. So I felt this would get the point across. What you see here, again, these different circles or bubbles, as we call them sometimes, are indicating the relative numbers from a confirmed case perspective. Another example where I used a map in a finance and an accounting role is we wanted to identify what the business case was for automation. So we might have had 200 ideas for automation, different processes that people in the organization felt could be automated. And we prepared a business case for each of them. We calculated the projected return on investment and the estimated net present value as well. Once we made those calculations, we loaded them into a tool and plotted them on a map similar to the one that you see on the screen. This was a global organization, so there were different geographic regions that we wanted to focus on. And this map allowed us to see where the greatest financial benefit was, and in some instances, where the greatest benefit to the control environment was, because all benefits of digital technology are not financial. Some of them are non-financial, but are equally important. As we think through the next steps, automation is here to stay. Digital teammates are already on the payroll. There are already virtual robots that are progressing activities and performing activities in large and small enterprises alike. Developing digital skills enables professionals to find ourselves more, or I'd say better positioned to deliver greater value to the businesses that we support. So what can we do to ensure that we are prepared? Well, think about the competencies that are in demand. Skills gaps continue to be high as in-demand skills across jobs change in the next 5 years. The top skills and skill groups, which employers see as rising in prominence in the lead up to 2025, include groups such as critical thinking and analysis, as well as problem solving, and skills in the self-management such as active learning or resilience, stress tolerance, and flexibility. But as you see there, the highest skill there, critical thinking and analysis, which is precisely what we need as we embrace digital technology and leverage the data analytics skills we want to gain. As we think about leaders leading teams, what do they have on their minds as CFOs and controllers think about how to develop skills within their teams? There are 3 primary steps that are followed. They're designing and assessing what the current state of their teams are. So designing a training approach, assessing the capability of the people within their teams, training, so training through independent and guided learning using actual use cases, and then applying learnings to prioritized projects with dedicated bandwidth. I think this is important to explain because we want to be aware of what finance and accounting leaders are doing to develop our teams, to develop the skills that we have and ensure that we keep the skills that are needed into the future. As you think about how you might do this specifically, if you're not leading a team, then you want to enhance or elevate your own capability. You do not need to get a statistics PhD or anything along that line, but it is beneficial to develop data analytics and data science skills. That means learning some of the describe and diagnose, predict, or prescribe the different types of analytics that we described earlier, learning how to do simple regression. Some of that will come through in the courses that you're taking, I'm certain. Also, data and data applications. So yes, you need to be proficient in Excel, but other options considering Python or R. Other tools for data visualization, Tableau and Power BI. We want to think also about data governance, the data life cycle. So starting from raw data and what it means to transform data into information, and then transforming that information into insights that support or inform strategic decisions. Business domain. So no matter the industry you enter, it's important to understand the business that you're supporting, understand the operational side of the business, understanding the business to know what problem to solve. So that gets back to what question actually needs to be answered by the data. And you also want to be able to develop programs for intelligent solutions. So thinking ahead about artificial intelligence, thinking ahead about the controls that might be needed in accounting and finance processes with those digital technologies and tools. Other things that are available, and this is where we think on behalf of the Institute of Management Accountants, we do have the Certified Management Accountant designation. This is something that most schools and most students, I would say, are prepared to sit for in the end of your tenure. And so especially at USP and at Fipecafi, I fully expect that the coursework that you get exposure to is able to prepare you for the Certified Management Accountant designation. So consider sitting for that. That does include a good deal of focus on technology and analytics. There is a full section of the exam devoted to technology and analytics. This is, of course, a globally recognized certification. And then there are a host of technology and analytics resources available to you if you are an IMA member. These are available for free to anyone with a student membership. Most of these are. We have robotic process automation courses that are available for free to student members. We also have a data analytics and visualization fundamental certificate, which is available for free to student members as well and academic members alike. So that is the material that I wanted to cover today. I am hopeful that you walk away from this thinking about what we need to do as a profession moving into the digital age. And I'm hopeful also that you have had exposure now to the key steps that are needed for you personally as you step into your careers from a finance and accounting perspective. With that, I'd like to hand back over to Professor Anson and find out if there are any questions that we would like to field.
Thanks, Loreal. Thanks very much. So I will change to Portuguese just to say that se alguém tiver alguma questão que queira colocar no chat ou que queira abrir o microfone, fique à vontade.
I'll tell people, don't be shy because your English is much better than our Portuguese.
Right.
So. Oh, I see some messages, Loreal. Oh,
Okay.
just a lot of thank yous. A
Oh,
lot of
wonderful.
thank yous. Loreal, there was one person, Tariq, who said he's very interested in the topic of data analytics, and I think he has worked maybe in computer science and is now getting a financial management degree, and he's so glad to see this type of presentation, and he's very interested in research. So I directed him, I shared with with all of the attendees, IMA's technology, the Technology and Analytics Center that we have
Great.
on the IMA website.
Outstanding. Yes, if anyone is interested from a research perspective, certainly feel free to reach out to myself or to Lisa directly. You can connect with us on LinkedIn. We would be happy to speak with you. And there are, again, a lot of resources that are available for free to anyone who's an IMA member.
Loreal, could I ask you a, let's say, broad question?
Yes.
You were talking about the future of finance and accounting and the accountant, the professional. So my question is, how far do you think we are from this future?
If you work in a large enterprise, you are already there today. The future is already here. When I worked in a large global enterprise as an accountant or financial professional, we were already implementing robotic process automation. We formed a team within the finance organization that was focused on data analytics by itself. They only worked on analyzing the financial and non-financial data that we had. So in most cases, if you work for a large enterprise, the future is already here today. If you're working for a small or a mid-sized enterprise, then you've probably got a few years before you'll get there to the same extent that it is for large enterprises, but that's just because large enterprises have more resources available to them and began their journeys earlier. So a lot of the large enterprises have started this journey, I'd say 5 to 10 years ago, and are now progressing along that journey, but most of them have not completed their transformation journey. So it's definitely still underway.
And I could add to that, Professor Anson, in the work that my team and I do, reaching out to companies, now primarily in the US, but of all different sizes, from smaller organizations, medium-sized, to the large enterprises that Loreal is talking about across all different industries, we're finding that everybody is working on some type of a finance transformation project. The scope of it varies based on the size of the company, the size of the company's budget, right? Because you have to invest in the technology, and also maybe a little bit by industry too, you know, what's needed for different industries. So there are really, if you make it really simple, there are really two components to the finance transformation. One is an investment in technology. The other is an investment in people, because you have to have people who have the right skills to support the implementation of the technology and to manage it, right? And so what I heard from one CFO is that while the technology and what companies invest in may be different by company, the people piece is the same. The people, the employees have to upskill. They have to learn about data analytics and visualization, about RPA, about different automation technologies, about artificial intelligence and machine learning. So it's really important to focus on keeping your skills current as tech and technology changes so quickly. So it's so important for companies to have a tone at the top that, you know, we are a growth learning mindset company. We want you to always be learning new things. There needs to be that type of a management philosophy so that people are always encouraged to learn new things and be able to work with new technology.
I did see one question in the chat box as well that asked about the workforce impact with such high automation and digitalization. So I'm happy to speak to that one. There are a lot of people that are afraid that all of the accounting jobs will be eliminated because of automation, and that is not the case at all. What we have found is the type of work that we will perform will change, but we will still need as many accountants and financial professionals as we have today, if not more in some instances, because of our commitment to upskilling. So imagine what a 100-person finance team can do with regular finance and accounting skills versus what a 100-person finance and accounting team can do that has data analytics capabilities and is able to leverage artificial intelligence and focuses only on strategic insight as opposed to some of the more manual processes. And so what we're seeing so far, although there are some instances where there are lower end tasks that are eliminated within organizations, what we have seen more widespread is this commitment to upskilling, the commitment to automation first, the commitment to moving people in some instances that have that financial knowledge from finance and accounting teams over to IT teams or data analytics teams. And a lot of those trends will continue across the globe as well.
Loreal, we've got some other great questions coming in.
Go for it.
There is a question about, hold on, it's moving while I'm doing it. For Alexandra is asking, I'd like to ask, what is the importance of the human skills? Because you have mentioned that is very important to create process that bots will run. So, you know, the bots aren't going to just work on their own. I mean, you program them one time. You do have to have people who know how to manage the technology, right? So what we're saying is that some of the processes that are that can be automated, we'll no longer need people to, you know, write out checks and in some of the accounts payable and some of the repetitive processes. Those things will be automated. So people who have those jobs have to upskill. That's what we're calling it, upskill, you know, learn more, learn how to manage the technology, learn about artificial intelligence, about RPA systems, how to program these things. And I know Loreal has told me, I have not worked with bots, but from what she's told me and what I've seen of what she's done, there are a lot of different software programs out there that are so easy to use. It's point and click. It's not all this programming. So you want to become familiar with this technology and how to implement it. And somebody else was asking, what's a good beginning topic, Loreal, about technology for people who aren't as familiar with it? I know some of the IMA courses, they're set at an introductory level, at a beginner's level, right? Can you speak to that a little bit?
Certainly. So I was exactly going to recommend what Lisa said. I recommend starting with some of the IMA courses just because we intentionally designed them to be foundational. Robotic process automation is a good one to learn about if you take the IMA RPA course series, which is again available for free to student members of IMA. Then you're able to learn not just what you need to know about robotic process automation, but it teaches you what you need to know about any process that might be automated within finance and accounting, and how to make the decision, how to build a business case for whether or not you should use technology. So robotic process automation could be a good one to get started with. You might also consider the data analytics and visualization certificate that's available through IMA. That's free as well. And that one I think could be beneficial because it helps you understand those different types of data analytics that we talked about. Those two will give you great foundational skills if you haven't had any exposure at all to any of these tools before. One other one that I might suggest is data visualization. And that's another one that can be accessed for free. And if you go to Tableau or Power BI, you can learn with their tools. You can learn for robotic process automation if you go to UiPath. And I'll type some of these in the chat box just for anyone who wants to use them as soon as I stop talking. But that will allow you to access some of their learning resources for free and download it to learn how to develop as well.
I was just going to add, with the courses that Loreal was mentioning through IMA, which are available to you for free once you join IMA as a student member. And I put the information in the chat. It's just $25 US to join. You do get a digital badge when you complete it. So it's something that will show up on your LinkedIn profile, that you have a digital badge in robotic process automation. You have a digital badge in data analytics and visualization from IMA. So it can be really nice to show that on your LinkedIn profile for your colleagues, but also for your employer or potential employer. So that's a nice benefit too. Loreal, there's a really good question here. Do companies in general have difficulties in justifying the ROI of an automation project in the financial, accounting, and tax areas? So can you talk a little bit about that? I bet with your BP experience, you had to show, the value of different projects before they were accepted, right?
Absolutely. So we set a process up we prepared a business case, a financial business case for every individual process we might have wanted to automate. And we had to justify the benefits using that business case. There are some instances where the business case is not financial, but it's a response to an audit finding or an audit gap, and it strengthens the control environment. In those instances, it doesn't matter what the financial business case is. You will gain benefits by avoiding certain costs that you might have had, fines that you might have to pay if you have regulatory violations, because automating the process will be lower risk than you performing it manually. And so one of the courses that's in our RPA series teaches you how to make that business case. And it's not something that needs to be 5 pages long. It's a 1-page business case that you will learn how to develop in that RPA course. And I think it's called RPA Value Creation. That course will allow you to prepare a 1-page business case. It teaches you how to calculate the net present value, how to estimate the return on investment for that use case based on how much efficiency you will gain by automating the process. And so people do often have challenges, and that's usually because they don't automate the right processes. They select processes that they say are painful and decide to automate them, as opposed to letting the business case inform what they should automate. And so a lot of times, to mitigate that risk, we prioritize processes according to different scoring metrics, and that also is available in the RPA course series.
There's a question about programming languages used for automation. I think you were mentioning a lot of the software providers are really where you turn for automation, like UiPath, some of the things that Loreal put in there, UiPath, Automation Anywhere are really your providers for automation, for RPA, and then data visualization, you're saying Tableau and Power BI. And there was a question about the IMA courses, and I just want to clarify. So you do have to be an IMA student or academic member to get free access to the IMA Data Analytics and Visualization Foundational Certificate. That is the beginner's course for people who don't know much about data analytics and visualization. And I can tell you, I have people on my team who are not accountants, they're salespeople. One of my salespeople, he went through the course and he was able to take some data from an Excel file and create a nice visual for me. He said, look what I can do in visualization. So believe me, it is for beginners. You do not have to know about accounting and finance to go through that course. The second data analytics course is the Beyond the Basics, and that was created in conjunction with the University of Illinois, which I know has a very strong relationship with USP, very good school in the US. And that one goes deeper, and it's a longer course. I believe that the first foundational certificate course is 9 hours, about 8 or 9 hours. The second one is more like 20 hours, but you're going to get into some programming like Python, like R. So it's going to be a lot more statistics and some more programming and computer science. So that's if you want to go a little bit deeper with that. And the course on robotic process automation, there are 4 like mini courses packaged together in the series. And in total, it's just 2 hours in length. So it doesn't take very long to go through that. And again, you get a digital badge with that RPA course, as well as the foundational course. So just wanted to clarify that. Loreal, there was a question about curriculum in the US, and then they were also asking of Fipecafi if this type of content is included in the US curriculum. And I know the answer is that it varies by school, right? Yeah. Schools are really trying hard to include technology and data analytics and visualization in their curriculum, but it varies very much by school because some schools have been able to make changes quickly. Others, they're trying to incorporate it. Some schools, they have a whole class, a course for a whole semester on data analytics and business analytics. Others, they're trying to incorporate it within existing courses. So it really varies, but there is a very strong need for the US educational institutions, the universities, to include this content. Business is demanding that, they need that in their new hires. Was there anything you wanted to add to the US side, Loreal?
The only thing I would add there, and I'll speak globally for what it's worth, is through IMA's endorsement program, there is a requirement that schools have that focus on technology and analytics. So as we are evaluating schools for endorsement, we are only endorsing programs that have the technology and the analytics focus embedded within their programs. So a testament to what USP has available, and with Fipecafi, I'm confident in the same place there. And so the US programs that we have all have that focus on technology and analytics. And to date, we have about 100 programs endorsed across the globe. So a lot of focus there. And there is recognition for even some of those schools that are not there yet. They are leveraging the courses that we have available at IMA. Some of them are embedding those courses into their curricula to ensure students get the exposure that they need. I see one other question, and then maybe we should direct to someone at Fipecafi to answer if this will be in their curriculum as well. And that one, I'm not crystal clear on what it's asking. I think this is from Patricia. Since management will not be so affected by technology, can I understand that robots cannot carry out the business course? And I think this is asking what robots can do versus what they can't, I think is what the ultimate question there is. And so robots can automate repetitive processes, a process that you have to click the same buttons or you follow the same steps each time. And or you have a decision tree and it says, if you do this process, if this pops up, then to click this button, or if that happens, click this button. And so a robot can perform those steps as long as it's the same steps each time. Where you cannot do that, you'd need a finance or accounting person to perform the process. There are some instances where we also need finance and accounting persons to design the automated process. The program that I led from an RPA perspective had a team of finance professionals as well as IT or computer science professionals. And so they worked together to design these processes, to manage the processes. And then there were other scenarios where if the process cannot be automated fully, then we automate as much as we can, and then the robot sends that data to someone in finance and accounting to complete the process.
Well, I think I will just address the question about Fipecafi, and we could, I see that we have a lot of other questions, and fortunately we will not be able to address all of them. So I will finish with this question, and if someone else have other questions, we could maybe, I don't know if Liz and Loreal are open to receive their contacts, and I don't know. Let's see. So about Fipecafi, I will change to português now. Eu gostaria apenas de destacar uma iniciativa recente, né, do Skylab, que é uma iniciativa importante nessa área de tecnologia. Então, a gente tem certamente uma diferença em termos de atenção que tem sido dada a esses temas de tecnologia, quando comparado às universidades, às escolas de negócios nos Estados Unidos, mas o que a gente tem procurado, especialmente aqui na Fipecafi, é justamente investir cada vez mais em relação a esse tema, e como eu comentei, o Skylab é um exemplo dessa iniciativa, e o que também foi mencionado no início, de a gente estar buscando cada vez mais trazer para os nossos currículos esse tema, não é? E a parceria, essa proximidade com o IMA é, sem dúvida, uma oportunidade bastante importante para que a gente possa ter a chance de acelerar ainda mais esse investimento em tecnologia. So that's, I think, it's. I would like to thank you. Thanks Loreal, thanks Lisa for their time, for the great presentation, and I hope we will have the chance to continue this conversation in another time, and have more chance to talk about how we could improve and invest more in technology in our curricula, and also soft skills and all that we have discussed here today. So thank you very much. And again, português, eu vou retornar a palavra para Pamela. Muito obrigado.
Obrigada.
Obrigada, Loreal, Lisa, pela excelente aula e reflexões. E obrigada mais uma vez por aceitar o nosso convite. Dando continuidade, daremos agora início ao Prêmio Excelência Acadêmica Fipecafi. O prêmio ele foi instituído pela Faculdade Fipecafi, visando reconhecer o desempenho dos docentes e dos discentes. Apresentaremos agora os alunos e os docentes que se destacaram no primeiro semestre de 2021 em nossos cursos. Parabéns a todos os premiados, parabenizamos a todos os alunos, os docentes, pelo excelente desempenho neste primeiro semestre, e que é responsável por manter a Faculdade Fipecafi como referência de ensino no país. Então, parabéns. Convido agora o professor Anderson para algumas palavras de encerramento.
Obrigado, Pamela. Acho que a gente teve hoje, então, uma excelente aula inaugural, né? Então, quero agradecer uma vez mais a Loreal e a Lisa pela participação, pela palestra, pelo que pude acompanhar no chat. Tiveram várias questões, infelizmente a gente não conseguiu, né, direcionar todas as questões, e o que demonstra para a gente, mais uma vez, a importância desse tema e o quão importante é essa parceria para a Fipecafi, junto com a EMEI, né, para que a gente possa dar cada vez mais atenção a esses temas. E demonstra, pelo que foi colocado na própria palestra, a importância da formação profissional, da educação continuada, não é, para que, enquanto profissionais, a gente possa se colocar em condições de acompanhar essas mudanças que vêm ocorrendo no ambiente empresarial, né, no ambiente de negócios e no ambiente externo em que a gente está inserido. Então, esse é um compromisso, né, que a Fipecafi tem. Então, retomando as bandeiras que foram colocadas no início pelo professor Edgar Conachione, é um compromisso que a gente tem de cada vez mais trazer esses temas para dentro da faculdade e para a fundação como um todo. Então, quero finalizar desejando a todos um excelente semestre, né? A gente está chegando, então, ao final de mais uma aula magna. Quero uma vez mais agradecer a presença de todos, né, de todas que puderam estar aqui hoje, e em nome da Faculdade Fipecafi, desejar, então, um excelente semestre letivo para vocês, e além de parabenizar, não é, tanto docentes quanto discentes que ganharam prêmio e que próximo ano a gente possa, próximo semestre, né, a gente possa mais uma vez estar aqui de volta e dar sequência a esse tipo de contato que é tão importante, que a gente possa trocar experiências e trazer temas igualmente relevantes aos que a gente teve hoje na nossa aula inaugural. Então, tenham todos uma excelente noite e agradeço mais uma vez.
Obrigada, professor. Uma boa noite a todos. Sejam muito bem-vindos os novos alunos e que seja um semestre com muito aprendizado e que vocês possam aí iniciar um novo ciclo na jornada de vocês. Uma boa noite a todos.